So, hello, my name is Christian. I am the librarian and archivist for Buckville Historic Town and Park, and this is our archives. So, one of the things you guys might have noticed here, driving to Barkerville, is, what was his name? Blessing's grave. You might have passed it right before the ski resort. And something happened, I believe in the 1980s. He was murdered, I should just say. Charles Blessing was murdered. It was one of the biggest murder cases in British Columbia at this time. He was murdered by Barry. I cannot remember his first name, unfortunately. But this guy named Blessing and Moses, who was the barber, if I remember correctly, they were all traveling from Barkerville to Quesnel. And they came across this gentleman named Barry. I cannot remember his name. I'm very sorry. I'm blanking on his first name. But anyways, Moses decided to kind of like stay back and everything. But Blessing decided to continue on with Barry, who was considered to be rather not a good character, somewhat of bad character. And unfortunately, Blessing never made it to Quesnel, but Barry did. A few weeks later, they find Charles Blessing. He's dead in the middle of the wilderness. He was shot in the back of the head. He was buried where they found him. And in 1980, due to some construction, we found one of Blessing's bones. But because Blessing had no descendants, we don't have anywhere to return the bones or anything like that. And we're also physically unable to. We don't want to start digging again and kind of making the situation worse. So, and because he was buried in kind of like a wooden casket, the bones kind of spread out and everything due to like the ground and everything. However, unfortunately, due to that, we are in possession of Blessing's radius bone. Contact with and return the human remains, but we also don't want to disturb the ground even further, making it even worse. So, unfortunately for right now, until we can get a very solid answer about what to do with his remains, his radius bone is going to be in the archives until that day. I do know it makes people uncomfortable, so I'm very sorry if I did, but it is, part of our collection. But Barry, they did end up catching him. It was really silly. Blessing had a very famous pin that everyone in the town knew him for. It was a gold pin. And then as soon as Blessing went missing, Barry was wearing it all of a sudden. And he was the last one to see him. And Moses testified, which again, you had a black person testifying in a, kind of a predominantly racist court system. It was a pretty big step. They did find Barry guilty. And he was hanged at Richfield Courthouse, which if you continue the road through Barkerville, you'll come to a white courthouse. He was hanged there. So that's the story of Charles Blessing, and I really wish I knew the guy's first name, unfortunately, the perpetrator. So that's one tale of Barkerville that is part of our collection, and understandably it is a little controversial, and I do understand that. He was a mining engineer here in the 1930s and 1920s. Actually, no, sorry, correct, scratch that. He was a mining engineer here at the turn of the century to the 19th and 20th century. And something that makes him very unique, he kept regular diaries. And unlike most people who wrote diaries back then, most diaries back then was either about the weather or the comings and going of wagons and transport. Nothing too exciting. What makes these series of diaries unique is he talked about his feelings on stuff. He talked about his thoughts on politics. He talked about news and everything. He was following the Boer War in South Africa almost daily. Like he was really, so you learn about his thoughts on contemporary events at the time, which is very, very useful for researchers to know how people thought about what was going on while it was happening. One of the interesting things though, and I just want to make sure I get the right one, but yeah, he was spanned over years and years and years and years, his diaries, and I always just find this very eerie. Saturday, April 2nd, 1910. Barometer 25/18. Snow AM, cloudy PM. Arose at 7 a.m. I feel very unwell indeed. I am like a man all broken on a wheel. My appetite is almost gone, and I am about as sick as I can be. If I am not better tomorrow, I shall go to the hospital. I am too sick to do anything. Sunday, April 3rd, 1910. Father died of pneumonia at 11:30 a.m. Leon Champion. So his son lit. So this is James Champion, but his son did the last entry.